Hi everyone, this is Yana.
My name is Olga and this is Primelang.
Today is our first language talk, and we would like to dedicate it to difficulties that people can face when working with different levels. Maybe it will be a series of talks, but today we are going to talk about difficulties that people encounter at the beginning of their journey.
Okay, so the first difficulty that we would like to mention is, of course, pronunciation, because once you start an absolutely new language, you can be pretty sure that there will be some difficult sounds that don't exist in your own language and will be very difficult to replicate.
A good example would be French, I think. I remember, for example, when I started learning French, there were a lot of new sounds for me. For example, re or nasal sounds like on or un. It's one thing to be able to just say the sounds, but when you have to say words which have these sounds or sentences in which there are words with these sounds, it can get difficult at first. Um, and so this could be the first one, but it's possible to overcome. What is our second? Yes, sorry, Olga, go on.
Right, so the second one we think is a different script. So as far as you are learning some language pretty similar to yours that has the same alphabet, for example, if we speak about the Europeans, most Western European languages have the same script, the same alphabet. You won't face this difficulty. The most that you can get is a few extra letters. For example, in my case, in Norwegian, there are 3 extra vowels, but it's fairly easy to learn them. But if you start some different language, for example, for the Westerners, Russian, of course, is like that. Some Asian languages have this same problem. You all of a sudden have to deal with an absolutely different alphabet, and in addition to learning to speak, you also have to learn to write.
Right. So, well, speaking of writing, the third difficulty that we think is very important is actually spelling, because, for instance, if you take Italian language or Spanish, everything is pretty much, you read what you see, basically. And German, there are just a few spelling rules, but not many. But if you talk about English, you see one set of letters, but you pronounce them very often quite differently. And then, but you have to make different sets of sounds. And so these things are they seem disconnected, And for a beginner, it just makes no sense. Why on earth do I see these letters, but I say these sounds, And so this could be difficult to, first of all, to read correctly and then to write correctly, because the other way is to be able to, when people write, is they try to write what they say, the way they pronounce it, but it isn't necessarily working that way.
Yeah, so it's one thing when you have some basic spelling rules, you can memorize them once and then use them. Even in French, there exist rules. There are lots of
Right.
them, but still, once you've learned them, you can mostly rely on them. There will be very few exceptions to these rules. But
And
yes, so English is an example of a language where rules don't work very often in spelling.
Well, there's a joke about that. That the English, they write Manchester, but they pronounce it as Liverpool. Well, of
Right.
course, this is an overstatement, but it really is it may seem
Yes,
true to some
it's
people.
very close to the truth, I think.
Yes. So,
Um,
well, yeah. What's
okay,
number?
yes.
Mhm.
So let's move on to our next difficulty, and it will be, I think, a major difficulty students face at this level. It's how you structure your sentence, because it's a common mistake to try to do it in the same way that you would do it in your native language. And uh, it's just easier, it's more natural to try to do it like this, but very often, of course, it won't work. And what you have to do instead is use an absolutely different construction. As a tutor, I often get this question, but why do we say it like this? Okay, so there is no good answer to that. There is no reason why, just because a different language functions in a different way, and you really have to accept this rather than try to resist it and fight it. That's my best advice.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, and there are some things at the very starter level. I think it's a good way to memorize sort of some cliches. You know that some of them can be directly translated, and so this is no longer really a cliche because it's just you just translate from your own language and you're happy. Everybody's happy. But there are some things that are not the same. Like Olga just said. And one example that I often get this mistake from Russian-speaking people who came to me to learn English is, for example, Olga, how do you say in Russian, how are you?
Как дела?
And how do we normally, what is the most typical answer that we can get?
Нормально.
Maybe you can hear нормально. It sounds very much in English, yes, like normal. But um, what kind of reaction would an English speaking person get if he or she asks me, for example, how are you? And I say, oh, I'm normal. Well, anyway, yes, it's a little bit, so a lot of people just don't get it. They say, but we say нормально in Russian. It's a very similar word, normal. And so this is just an example of how you have to learn to accept that in the new language, it's like a new language is like a different universe, and it works by different laws, and nothing or not many things will be the same as in your own language, which you know perfectly. And this brings us to the Olga, sorry, did you want to
Right,
say
so
add
I think
something?
I really like what you said about a different universe, and I think this is a place where your old laws of physics stop working, so you shouldn't really expect what you think is normal to still be normal, yes, to still happen. I think it's very common. And it also works, so Yana suggested as an example with Russian, but I think it works for different things, such as most basic phrases like what is your name, which sounds and is structured absolutely different in different languages, yes, or how old you are when you name your age. For example, in English you will use the verb to be. In this case, you will say I am 15, for example, but in French already you will use a different verb. You will use the verb to have. You will say like I have a certain age, yes, j'ai 15 ans. So this is a mistake many English speakers make in French. They try to say je suis 15 ans. Of course, this will not be right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, and actually, this brings us to a very important difficulty that many of us can face. It's uh, problems starting speaking or language barrier. You seem to be learning grammar, you learn the new words, but you just can't speak. You can't say it, and you are struggling to integrate. You are struggling to start any kind of conversation because you are used to in your native language. You are so used to being fluent. So you are so used to being confident and to speaking. To saying anything that you want to say, that when you come to the new language, you feel stuck. And so this is this is very important to work on this difficulty very slowly but all the time. So Olga, do you have anything else to add to what I've just said about this
Right. So
issue?
I think personally it's something I don't really understand, so I can't really feel it, but I see it very often in my students. So they are really, I think it's a fear of looking stupid maybe sometimes. So it's different for different people. But yes, it's something that you definitely have to overcome. Maybe you can start with somebody you feel comfortable with. You can start with a tutor, you can start with a friend, or even speak to yourself when you are alone. Just try pronouncing several sentences, thinking how you would say this in your target language. Hopefully this will help you to overcome this fear, because if you learn a language but can't speak it, what's the point, right?
Well, usually, yes. But also, a lot of people who, uh, like I just said, are confident, fluent speakers in their own language. Well, we're all fluent speakers in our own language. But anyway,
Mostly, yes.
normally, yes, we can say a lot more in our language than we can in the foreign language. And a lot of people feel uncomfortable because they want to say in the for example, if someone's telling me a story, a lot of people get frustrated that they can't say it like they would say it in their own language. And so just please don't worry about it. And just the most important thing is not the words. The most important thing is to convey what is the idea that you are trying to convey to me, this to
Yes,
tell me the
so
story.
what I usually suggest to my students is use the simplest words that you can. Don't try to make of it such a long and complicated and beautiful sentence as you have in your head, right? So
Mhm.
just use everything that you know, use what you know, and do it the best you can.
Right.
That's
Use what you know. Don't translate what you can say in your own
right,
language
right.
because it won't work anyway, because some concepts are just presented in a foreign language completely different. So, anyway, just take your time. We would like to end on the idea that all of these difficulties are very well, that they are possible to overcome, not always easy, and it doesn't happen fast, so uh, be patient with yourself, and allow yourself to make mistakes, and then to find them and correct them, and then to teach yourself slowly but surely to use all that you know, by slowly adding new things that you are learning. So don't believe anybody who says to you that, okay, you start learning language today and in 3 days you'll speak, well, maybe even not fluently, but you'll actually be able to speak. Yes, in 3 days you can say some phrases that you memorize, but that's it. So just please give yourself time and be good to yourself about this. Difficulties are normal, and making mistakes is okay. And so we would like to wish you good luck with learning languages and with overcoming your difficulties.
Yeah, so I guess the reason why we've decided to make these specific videos is to show you that these mistakes are common, and if you face one of them, you think that you really can't get over it. Well, just know that many other language learners all over the world are having similar mistakes, and they are definitely possible to overcome, and you are not alone in this. So
Mhm.
this is all from us for today. Um, we hope you enjoyed our videos. We will really appreciate it if you subscribe to our channel, and drop us a comment if you want us to discuss something in particular.
Well, we'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.